Hello and welcome to The Mill. I am your host, Dusty Crane, and this week I wanted to talk a little bit about an interesting imagination exercise that Jamey presented to Stonemaier Ambassadors in his latest newsletter. If you woke up tomorrow morning and were the president of Stonemaier Games, what would you do? This sounded like a fun topic for the show, so I thought I'd present my thoughts and maybe you'll share some of yours. First, I'm not even counting it among my list of things to do. I'm retaining the services of Jamey, Joe, and Alex. As new president, this is clearly a case of not trying to fix what isn't broken. This team has proven they can deliver, so making sure that the team is happy and has what they need is task number one. Let's go ahead and start looking at my ideas. Some, admittedly, were on the blog post Jamey shared that I'll link in the description, but I put a little spin on it, so let's get started. 1. Scythe Duel. I want a 2-player Scythe. I've played Scythe with the modular board with just the 2 tiles, and it's so much fun at 2 players. Love how crowded the board gets, but I'm thinking something larger here. I think it'd be fun to get 2 new factions that really are sort of yin and yang, that they're sort of a contrast to each other. Maybe one faction is gaining VP based on building up areas, and another is getting it for tearing it down. There are a number of ways to do it, but I would love the push and pull of 2 factions that are built to be the counterpart to the opposing faction. I think that'd be tremendously fun. But I also want different faction mats. I want this to be Scythe, but I also want it to be its own thing. I don't think it needs to integrate into existing Scythe, but maybe it could. 2. Rulebooks. Solo would get their own full rulebook. I'm a solo gamer too, and nothing bothers me more than trying to jump back and forth between rulebooks. Set up like you would for a 3-player game. Okay, so this and this and this. Well, yes, but you don't need that piece. Then I'm not setting up for a 3-player game, am I? I realize this creates overhead with having to make sure that both sets of rulebooks are accurate and identical where they should be, but in my opinion, that's the cost of saying a game has a solo mode. Sorry. And this is not a Stonemaier issue. There are many game companies that relegate solo mode to the last page or 2 of the rulebook, or a separate rulebook with callouts to the primary. I just want a complete multiplayer rulebook and a complete solo rulebook, or they can be the same rulebook so long as I'm not asked to flip front and back over and over and over just to maybe get the setup right. 3. Shadow Ops. Now, not as cool as it sounds. I'd investigate whether a Shadow LLC to assign copyrights to until the game is released makes any sense at all. You may have seen it leaked on Reddit that Stonemaier Games filed a trademark for Libertalia. Jamey addressed this in his Wednesday live stream this week, and he didn't go into any details besides the fact that someone discovered it. In a comment he left on the mill, he mentions that it's just a word. It doesn't mean they're making Libertalia, but if and when they do something with that trademark, we'll know when he's ready to share the details with us. So does it make sense to have another company trademarking those names and then the trademark being transferred to Stonemaier Games? Would that create a paperwork footprint too, so that the shadow company was good for one trademark and then it would be outed? I don't know. Does it even make sense price-wise to do this? Again, I don't know. But it's something I'd look into because it's clear Jamey enjoys surprising and delighting people, and that's kind of lost if people keep outing his trademarks or copyrights, trademarks, right? 4. We know that Stonemaier Games has a stated mission to deliver a more environmentally friendly game to us. I believe that means less plastic. Jamey's mentioned that the future inclusion of biodegradable plastic baggies. He's mentioned that they'd like to stop sealing new cards in plastic wrap. I think what I took from the most recent conversation I saw on the topic was some of the card ink bleeds into the packaging if you use paper, which doesn't seem like a big deal unless it's producing a noticeable mark on the cards themselves. If we can tell which card was pressed against the paper, that's probably not good. A filler card on each side may do the trick though, or maybe just giving the cards longer to dry. Can cards be wetter going into plastic than paper? I don't know, but as president, I'd like to see that looked at. In addition to that, I'd look into whether bamboo paper is a good replacement for the paper we know today, since bamboo grows so much faster than trees. I'm not an ecologist though, so I don't know if I'm just trading one issue for another, so again, it should be mentioned that this is something I would take some time exploring. I also think I'd like to see Stonemaier start a program where X amount of games made translates into X amount of trees planted. Stonemaier already does a lot of charity work, but I think this would be worth looking into. A lot of charity work has their foot in fixing the issues of now, problems. And that's important. Super important, no question. But something about planting a tree is forward-facing to me. It's leaving something beautiful for the generation to come, and I like that. I'd like that associated with my brand. Panda, Stonemeier's manufacturer, actually did something like this for Earth Day, where you could tag a picture of you with a game made by Panda and they'd plant a tree for each picture. I think it's awesome. I'd like to see something more automatic though, and if I'm president of Stonemaier Games, I can do that. Finally, and this one hurts me, I want less of this kind of packaging and more of this kind of packaging. This looks a little like a board game box. It's adorable. It's actually pretty substantial for what it holds, and I have a very hard time recycling it. It's a teeny game box. I want to keep it, but this, it's still nice looking, but this packaging uses less packaging? And I actually wouldn't mind tossing it into the recycling bin when I've unpacked the expansion into the core game box. This though, well, obviously, this is still here. 5. Proofreaders. Like Jamey, I don't adhere to the belief that more is better, but I do think there's an opportunity to improve upon the system. A little inside baseball here. Stonemaier Games pays their proofreaders, as they should, but I know there are people who point to some companies who toss the rulebook out for everyone to read ahead of time, and it's group sourced, and that's cool too. But Stonemaier wants to pay their proofreaders, and I don't think I'd want to pay 1,000 people as president. I have another proofread. I've actually proofread for Stonemaier Games. It was just once, and I found some stuff. I was paid, though I didn't get a proofreader credit on the box. That's fine. It's no big deal. Either I didn't proofread enough, or maybe I missed something significant, or it could have been an innocent mistake. In any case, it's not a big deal. My point is just that I can speak from a little bit of experience here. I think when I went to my proofreader community, I would set the expectation that I'm going to send them a copy of the rules and text components a few times. First, I'd have them review what I consider to be the final rules and let them find what I missed. If those findings were substantial, I'd make the changes, then send them back to the proofreaders to review. We good? It's off to the graphic designer to pretty it up. From there, I'm sending that file back to the proofreaders just in case something got buried under something else, or if a typo came up in doing the thing. We're all human. Mistakes happen. In the very best scenario, I'm sending my proofreaders a file to proof twice. Maybe there's someone I've identified as really good. Maybe they got a couple of extra kicks at it from a flow perspective or to help with clarity. But all people I've identified as proofreaders will get to see the final copies of text on everything before I send it off to be printed. Now, I acknowledge that there is a risk involved here. If you're going to send files with text to your proofreaders, you need to know they're trustworthy. You need to know that your files are safe with them. That's why I believe it's important to keep your circle small. You can't trust the internet with final print files for components, but you should be able to trust your circle. Ultimately, finding that circle is a challenge in and of itself, but one I believe is well worth the effort. And setting the expectation that accepting the job is a multi-step effort should help with any concerns I might have that I'm just bothering them with more work. I guess it's worth mentioning at this point that perhaps Stonemaier Games already does this. As I mentioned, I only reviewed one rulebook in the Oceania box, so I can't speak to the whole process, but this is what I would do as president. 6, finally, return to Kickstarter for a single project to see what level of deluxe a game could become. I know this probably flies in the face of what I was just talking about in terms of environmental stuff and not creating a lot of waste, but when I say I want a really deluxe version of a Stonemaier game, I'm thinking more in terms of metal coins like Charterstone, maybe fancy painted wooden meeples, maybe those fancy cards that Roxley just put into Radlands that are bend-proof, waterproof, and don't require sleeves. I just think there is so much more support for Stonemaier Games now than there was when Jamey walked away from Kickstarter. A new campaign could be huge. And Jamey, I know you lost a lot of sleep watching that campaign. I promise you'll have support. You're the face of the company and you'll be an important part of the garnering trust, but I promise you'll have help. There won't be any sleepless nights. Now don't get me wrong, I love that Stonemaier announces a new game and I can buy it and have it in hand in a matter of like a month or two later. That's so much better than I backed this game a year and a half ago and I'll get it in 3 more months, you know? Then there's the matter of people asking about the next campaign. Stonemaier Games hasn't been on Kickstarter in years, and people still ask when a newly announced game will be up on Kickstarter. You know, maybe this is a tremendously bad idea, but I only started the job this morning when I woke up, so give me a break. And that is all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Did I have any good points? Did I have any tremendously knucklehead options there? Let me know. And, you know, like I said, let me know what you would do if you were president of Stonemaier Games. I think that's all I have for... You know what? I thought of something. Not me, but I would like to give you a little bit of homework. If there's a creator or somebody that makes things that you really enjoy, take a minute to just go ahead and send them a tweet or an email if you happen to have that information, just to say thanks. I think a lot of times we feel a little, I don't know, weird about extending, I guess, good wishes on someone. Like it almost feels weird to just email someone and say, hey, I don't know you, but I just wanted to let you know that this thing that you make means a lot to me, and I just wanted to say thank you for doing it. Have a great day. Thanks, bye. But it really can be as easy as that, and what's the worst that's going to happen? They're not going to respond. You still probably made their day, and if you can help make the day of somebody who makes something that you really like, that's fantastic. And putting more positive out into the universe, never a bad thing. It's super easy to talk about the things that we don't like. This made me angry. I'm mad about this. And just to get people to say, yeah, you know, you're justified in that. But also talk about the things you love so people can say, yeah, I like that thing too, or that's awesome. I think, you know, I think we could all do a little bit more of that. I don't know that I see anybody who does entirely too much of that. You know what I mean? I see people that acknowledge and show appreciation. That's cool. But again, I'm not fishing for compliments here. This isn't for me. This is for other creators that you enjoy, or people that make games that you enjoy, or somebody at the grocery store that always bags your groceries just right and doesn't squash your bread or eggs. Also worth an extra bit of thanks. And that is all I have for you this week. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Thanks for watching. Bye.